some. So we're seeing some barrels moving from America all the way to Asia, to China, and what that means is that it's also going to compete with our oil in the markets where our oil is going, in addition to the fact that they are reducing their imports from us. So those are factors that are not really helpful right now in terms of the oil market. And I think it's a bit of a worrying trend. OPEC needs to take a decision. They need to take a major cut.
Dolapo, do you think there should be a meeting this morning as we speak, as you and I are on television discussing it in Abuja with the Minister of Petroleum Resources, maybe with the finance and others, very quickly to take a quick look at this report? Again, well, put that together into the conversation about plans to unbundle 20% of our petrochemicals. How quickly do you think we need to move on our policies and actions to be part of this game-changing, daily by day by day, minute by minute developments in the world of oil and gas?
Yeah, the thing is, I'm happy with this decision to start unbundling assets, and I think it's a good thing. To be very sincere, if you think about it, government is still sitting on a couple of assets here and there, and specifically the ones that they mentioned, the petrochemical plants, the oil and gas assets. I think it's time to start looking at reducing stakes there. All around the world, you see that Saudi Aramco is coming to the market. Even today, we've seen news that the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC, is also coming to the market. They're not clear if it's going to be an IPO or a private placement, but they are basically looking to reduce their stake in the company as well. A lot around the world also to other, I know he's also looking for equity, trying to get out of the market. So it's a good time. The only thing is just that because oil prices are quite low, valuations will be quite cheap. But then for something like Element Petrochemical, which the government still has about, I think, 20 to 25% in, that would make it quite attractive because they could get good valuation for a company that is quite profitable, for a company that is doing quite well. Very, very few cases of any disruption to their production, if any at all. So that will make that quite attractive. So I imagine that it's a good, in my view, it's a good time, and I think we should look at more assets that we can put on the market. Not necessarily a fire sale at this point, but then to some extent generate what value we can in this current market.
Generate what we can in the current market. So I'm going to ask you this question, as if you are the Minister of Petroleum Resources, sitting down in Abuja in Kachiku's office, taking decisions. How soon do you think we should do this sale? How quickly?
I'd give a calendar of about 0 to 6 months. I'd say that's what we need to be pushing for. Because, again, between now and the rest of the year, we still see oil prices staying above $40 per barrel. But what we're concerned about is that beyond into next year, we start to see some serious volatility. Most analysts are even predicting that oil could touch the 30s range next year. So there's some volatility concerns next year, which for me would mean that anything we're going to sell, for valuation purposes, we should be looking at 6 months at most, December 2017.
If we go to the market, Dolapo, about how much do you think we can raise, considering the state of the industry where we are? Any idea?
The thing is, I think you still remember Nigeria is attractive. People want to come here. The oil is easy to get out of the ground. The issues here are typically above ground issues, not necessarily issues of I drilled, I didn't find anything. So assets are quite attractive if the laws and regulations are conducive enough. And I think concerning that, I think there's that attraction to come here. I don't know if I have answered your question particularly.
Well, I was asking you, is there any figure in the oil and gas industry where you work every day about if Nigeria goes to the market, we'd say 20% of this or that, we're looking at $10 billion, $20 billion?
It's difficult, honestly, to work with a figure. At some point, when we had plans to maybe, sell down on government stake in the JVs, one could have put a figure that, okay, if we put an additional 5 to 10 or let's say 15% of the JVs on the market and we're willing to sell down, we could confidently raise about $10 to $15 billion, yes. But now it's pretty much more difficult because, again, we're not talking JVs now. We're likely talking mostly assets like, refineries or petrochemical plants, and if the oil blocks are included, yes, we could confidently be looking at figures above $10 billion.
You think, Dolapo, final one, do you think the market is the way to go for the Nigerian government at this point in time? Sell down on this via the stock market?
Maybe not just the Nigerian stock market, because I don't think Nigerian stock market is deep enough. But yes, it would be a nice way to go. We should look at listing some of these things on the local stock exchange. We should also look at, for transparency and for accountability, or mostly to also gain the attraction of international investors, we should look at foreign stock exchanges as well too. That would give some measure of confidence that as well too, in addition to listing on the local stock exchange.
Yeah, a very interesting conversation, Dolapo, because Obianuju Nsofo, who is from Afrinvest, one of the investment analysts here in the studios, and we're talking after this conversation with you about the electricity sector, whether the equities and the bond market in Nigeria provides a very good window for Nigerian party discos and the Gencos to also approach the market and get some funding and to get out of the quagmire that we currently have ourselves. What's your take?
I look forward to seeing that discussion as well too. I think it's an interesting one. We've got to definitely get those guys on the exchange, because equity has to enter that market to improve the liquidity situation. That market has a major liquidity issue, and I think it's partly because of the funding structure. So clearly, it doesn't have enough equity in the funding structure. That's something that has to change. I imagine. Because I've sat down in a couple of meetings with investors that are looking at buying into some of these assets, but what hasn't happened is the fact that the old buyers don't feel they've gained enough value. So the equity sale may have to happen from the government side as well too. And to some extent, I think government is still holding significant equity in those assets. So government may be the one that may eventually have to sell down his own stake in the discos first and foremost, and then subsequently in the TCN, and then in the Gencos.
I agree with you. I don't have to agree openly, but I agree with you. If government is holding 35%, 45% in discos and Gencos, that's still a lot of money. You want money to come into Embed? Some folks are interested. Why don't you just put in money? Even if the TCN, just like you said. But Uju is listening to this conversation. I'm sure she's taking some notes as well. Let's have a robust conversation. As much as time you have, be part of the conversation moving forward. Thank you very much for bringing the markets to the oil and gas this morning. Dolapo Oni, head of energy research at EcoBank Nigeria. We'll come back after the break. You heard what we're going to talk about, the electricity, and we're using the equities and the debt market options. Why would we just go that route and just solve this funding problem once and for all and just get power?